I'm so happy that this show exists. It exceeded all of my expectations.
Bing bong.
Full recency bias here, but I think that X-Men 97 might have just been the greatest creation in the MCU. I remember the X-Men 97 TV show from when I was growing up as a kid. I remember X-Men Evolution. I remember the Fox X-Men movies. I was a pretty big X-Men fan. I was definitely, Wolverine, hardcore Wolverine fan, obviously. Not only is he awesome, but they also kind of pushed him as the leader of the X-Men. It's always been like a casual fandom. I never read the comics. I don't remember that much from the original X-Men 97 show, but I was pumped for this reboot sequel show that takes place same timeline as the original X-Men 97. And I watched every episode of the season every single week. I mean, I became so obsessed with this show, I was watching it before I went to work in the morning so that I could try to avoid spoilers. It is absolutely phenomenal. I was thinking back to some of the recent MCU projects that I really enjoyed, because we all know over the last few years, MCU's had some rocky movies and TV shows. And it's really hard to compare the overall quality of a show to a movie, just because TV shows, they get more episodes, they get more time to flesh everything out, build up their story. The last time I can remember an MCU project being this good was Infinity War, because I feel like to this day that film needs to be studied. Infinity War is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, and I think it's the only other thing that I can equate in terms of like high level quality across the board to X-Men 97. Without Infinity War, I think this is far and away the greatest creation in the modern MCU ever. And I say that as somebody that likes a lot of the Marvel movies, maybe not the recent ones, but a lot of them are fantastic, and X-Men 97 is just way, way better than anything I have seen Marvel do besides Infinity War. Infinity War is fantastic. X-Men 97, I think I gotta put it just a tiny bit above Infinity War. That's how good this show is. I think if you're watching this show every week and you're anything like me, right, and you're talking to your buddies after every episode, and we just kind of went back and forth like, okay, but like, not every episode is going to be a banger, right? Like, obviously, even though it's only 10 episodes, like, there's probably going to be some highs and lows throughout the season. And honestly, no. And it's funny, one of my favorite episodes was the Jubilee in the video game world episode. Like, such a self-contained story. I don't know. I enjoyed it. It was very simple. She met the future version of herself. I don't know. I just liked it. And little did I know that this show was going to just get so insane. Every episode somehow got better. And I'm sure you could nitpick this show and find some things that maybe you didn't think were that good. But let's not act like this is not one of the best things Marvel has ever done in the history of Marvel. This is one of the best things they've ever done. And in recent Marvel history, this might be it, man. This might be the best thing they have made in, the last whatever, when they get the rights for X-Men and Spider-Man and all that 20 years ago. Like, it's had its ups and downs, and this is, I think, the highest up that we've had. There is so much to say about this show, about everything it does right. I don't know much about the good guy Magneto arc in the comics. I loved it. I love Magneto. I mean, it was probably Wolverine, Magneto are my two favorite characters. It was awesome to see him be a good guy, because he's Magneto. He's so cool. He's such a cool character. This is one of the best, most fleshed out versions of him. Although I think really that's unfair, because almost every version of Magneto is like written incredibly well. I mean, the relationship between Charles and Eric is one of the most consistently well written character relationships that I have ever seen. Whether it was the original Fox movies or the later Fox movies, and now the show, I mean, the relationship between Eric and Charles is just so well written all the time. It's incredible, and this show is no different. They absolutely knock it out of the park. I also appreciate that this show did not make Wolverine the main character, did not get too over the top about the Wolverine and Jean romance, because X-Men has a bit of a history of putting that front and center all the time. You would never know that Cyclops was like the leader, because they certainly didn't treat him that way in most of the other X-Men media that we got to this point. So it was cool to see the team have a different dynamic, a fresh dynamic. Meeting all these characters again after so many years was fantastic. The animation in this show, I mean, it's truly some standout animation that I can remember seeing. I think my favorite one was probably Wolverine going through the Nightcrawler teleportation. Just a really cool idea. Some amazing cameos in this show. Again, I don't read the comics, so I wasn't expecting people like Captain America, Spider-Man, and Iron Man to show up. And every cameo we got, Baron Zemo, Doctor Doom, I popped for all of them. I was like, this is so cool. This show is so cool. You know, if you're watching this review, I can't help but feel like there's a very good chance you just feel the same emotions of just happiness. But this show also had some truly sad moments. The death of Gambit was obviously heart-wrenching, but I'm going to be honest. The death of Gambit did not hit me nearly as hard as a moment in the final episode of this season where Scott and Jean say goodbye to their son Cable because they're going to sacrifice themselves. And when Jean is able to, restrict Scott's powers so that Cable can see his dad's eyes, because they have that whole running thing throughout the whole season about how he has his father's eyes. I actually cried. Like, I legitimately cried during this point in the show. I fully cried. I couldn't believe it. It hit me sort of out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it. But this show will make you emotional in all the best ways. I don't really have any notes. I was just along for the ride this whole season. I'm honestly not here to nitpick the show. I think they did pretty much everything damn near perfectly. I just can't wait for season 2. I'm so happy. I want more stuff like this. I love the fact that they have a plan for this show, that it seems like they're telling specific story that they already thought through, and we're getting season 2 hopefully sometime early next year. Hey, maybe this year, I don't know. They said they're almost done. I will say, if they release this show on DVD, count me in. I'm gonna buy it. This is gonna be the first time I ever buy any Marvel TV show. But God man, I'm so happy that this show exists. It exceeded all of my expectations, and I can't wait for more.